Let's start about. You don't know much about your mom and dad coming over here, huh?
No, I don't know anything. My dad, all I heard is when they moved from there, he went to Oklahoma and he worked in the coal mines. And that's about all I knew, what he did there in the coal mines. That's how he started. From there, he come to the Quad Cities.
Well, do you don't remember, where were you born?
I was born in Silvis. I don't know if it was in the yards, there was a little village that they had there in Silvis, and that's where most of the people lived there. From there, then they moved them out, matter of fact, 2nd Street was not even there. 2nd Street was just all woods, and the only people that lived in 2nd Street was the Evans. They lived back there in the corner. And they used to call it the Evans Village. And from there, it started in 2nd Street, and about the first people that moved in 2nd Street was the Silvises, the Bellmans, the Macias, and the Sexitos, and the Seguras, and the Gomez, and it was the Herreras.
Where were you? Were you born in a hospital?
No, born at home. There was born at home. I don't even know if there was any doctors at all at that time. I don't know. That I cannot answer that, because I've seen that most of in our family was born at home, all the way from what I've seen is Al, Mo, and Mary. They were born at home, and that's all I can remember about that, about them being born at home. Later on, they got a birth certificate, at the time, I didn't even know how my dad got a birth certificate or anything. We probably could have been, all of us could have been without a birth certificate at that time, That's the way it was. And it was recorded over at the courthouse, and later on, that's how things were done in those times, back in the 30s. As well as,
do you remember ever seeing your mom pregnant?
oh yeah. Every year I'd seen mother pregnant. Never fail, from year to year.
So it always seemed like she was pregnant?
Yep. Yeah. My mother was not a fat person, a heavy person, but she always never missed a year without being pregnant. Yeah, we remember that very well.
So do you remember being around when any of your brothers and sisters were actually born in the house? What was it like when that was happening?
At least it seemed like all the people that gathered around, mostly the old ladies, and they were the doctors and nurses. And while there was birth at home, and they all helped, and that's how we were born, I remember the ladies, but I don't remember their names. Who the ladies that was, Mary Ruben, remember, who was really good at that, and that bringing family into this world, She, matter of fact, they call her as a doctor because she did it for a lot of people in the Mexican, community, that she did it for a lot of people. I don't know if Rufina remember that, but I don't know if it was Mrs. Let's see. I think it was Petra and Mrs. Valley. Mrs. Valley that helped on that deal. And they were pretty good in delivering babies into this world.
Were they from the Mexican community? Were they Mexican? Or
Yeah, they're Mexican, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So tell me about some of your first memories. You said you didn't remember your mom and dad, of course, moving. You weren't born yet. And there was a lot of things in the Silvis yards you don't remember.
No, I don't remember. I remember there was a church there. It was 2 boxcars that they made into a church, and that was the first church of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And then that Lady of Guadalupe was moved into 4th Street in Silvis. And they had brought all the statues in that. It was a real big statue of Christ. I remember that very well. How they moved it over there to Guadalupe and Silvis, I don't know, but that statue was brought all the way from the Silvis yards to the new church in 4th Street.
Okay, so what's your memories beyond that, after that? Early memories, first memories you can think of.
Like what?
Just anything. Remember playing out in the yard? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember even playing in the yards at all. I remember that we moved in a house over there on Railroad Avenue on East Moline. It's between 13th and 14th, right there on Railroad Avenue. My dad rented that house right there. And from there, we come into 2nd Street, and we moved in a boxcar right in about the center of 2nd Street. As I told you, I made that sketch, and I told it right about the middle of 2nd Street. Then later on years, we moved into, that was back in 1930, gonna be 36 or 37, down there where my dad's house. But it was another house that they built behind Pompa's house. It was Mr. Frank Pompa and Mrs. Pompa. We call her Tonya, which is Tonya. That's all I remember. And we lived there for a few years. Later on, we went to the sugar beets, harvest sugar beets over in Iowa, in Clarion, Iowa. We were all little, and that first year we done super on those sugar beets. My dad made enough money that he bought that house where you lived there for a little while. That's the house that he had bought, and it was in bad shape, but we restored it year to year. Didn't even have a basement.
You mentioned working in the beet fields.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what that was like.
What was that like? Well, when you're at that age, I must have been about maybe 6 years old. It was fun. It was fun because we were in a farm where they had cows, horses, chickens, and all that, and it was work. It was a hard work, and it was hot. We worked in the fields from sunup to sundown. And the ones that worked on the sunup to sundown was Rufina, Willie, Reuben, and me. The rest were too small, but they did get up there at times, but they didn't do that much at all. And after the beets were Well, see, we had to thin them out. When they grow beets, it was all heavy rows, you know. You had to thin them out and space them out about a foot apart. And after the beets were done that way, thinned out, the farmer cultivated them, you know. We kept the weeds down and everything. There was nothing else to do till later in the fall, which the beets got huge. They were huge. I could hardly even pick them up, you know. That's how big they were. So we would go to Minnesota, and harvest onions. And we never did harvest any carrots, but they did have carrots, and they were big, long carrots, beautiful carrots, you know. And we work up there for the harvest of the onions and that. And then we come back to Clarion, Iowa, to harvest the beets. And the farmer would get a plow and he'd plow them up, and we pick them up and throw them in the center. And then big truck, they come up and pick them up and throw them in a truck and take them into the company that took the beets. Where they took them, I don't know. And it was a very good experience, you know, that we worked up there in those fields. We worked up there 3 years. My mother went with us 1 year. After that, she passed away, you know, and she never went with us anymore. Fred was a baby. He was only 9 months old. My mother died, and my mother died of twins, and which they had named them Peter and John, you know. Other than that, I don't know. They were buried in Rock Island somewhere. I think Reuben knows, but I never knew where they were buried. That's all I remember, that she had died of childbirth. And I think that time she did go to the hospital. She was at Moline Public Hospital with those when she died, you know, and had twin boys.
Why were you in the beet fields?
Why we were on the beach? Because it was during the Depression. There was no work. And the Depression, you know, that put food on the table, you know, when we were in the beach, you know, because there was no work at all. No, nothing at all. So we went for 3 years, and at that time, everything seemed to open up a little bit, that we didn't have to go after the third year. My dad bought the house and got himself a job, and he was pretty well established after that, you know, but still poor, you know. And that's how we got started for the beets, and then from there we worked on.
You said a few minutes ago that it was a good experience. It sounded horrible, but you said it's a good experience. Why was it a good experience?
Well, the good experience, we learned how to work. And that learn how to work, it taught us all survival in this world, you know. And as you can see, I'm still working, because I enjoy it, you know, and it never has bothered me. Work has never bothered me. Mm.
Do you remember working the beets when you had a problem with your legs?
Yeah, as a little boy, I had rheumatism, and my ankles were really swelled up, and I could hardly walk, you know. But my dad made me continue walking. Reuben and Willie tried to carry me, and they used to get heck because they says, "Don't you ever carry him away. He's got to walk, and if he don't walk, he'll never walk." And my dad made sure that I walked every day. And he doctored me and used that slow liniment, which you call it volcanic tonic, and he put that on me every day. But he says, don't ever stop walking, because if you do stop walking, you'll never walk again. And I'm still walking. I don't know if that did it, but I mean, after that, I never had any more problems with it at all.
Do you ever remember in your childhood, ever remember, let's get this right here. Ever remember at all seeing a doctor?
No, never went to a doctor in my childhood, never. Lived without a doctor till I went in the service. That's the first time I've seen a doctor. Over in Chicago, when I got inducted, when the service went to Chicago, right there by LaSalle Station, Dearborn in Chicago. That's the first time I seen a doctor.